One, live.
Hi, this is John Hooms. I'm the Artistic Director of the Nashville Opera, and thank you so much for joining us at our continuing series of HBCU Masterclasses. I want to start by thanking our project partners, Tennessee State University, Dr. Robert Elliott, Head of Music Department, Fisk University, and the 105 Voices of History Choir, made up of singers from each one of the historically Black colleges and universities in our nation. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors who are making this program possible. Thank you to the National Endowment for the Arts, Opera America Innovation Grant, and the Ann and Gordon Getty Foundation, South Arts, and the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. And a special thanks, as always, to our project manager, Patrick Daly. Today we have a very special class with a wonderful teaching artist. I want to do a short introduction. Adriana Zabala is acclaimed for operatic, concert, and recital performances throughout the US and abroad. In addition to traditional operatic roles, Ms. Zabala has created characters and distinctive new works such as Douglas Cuomo's Doubt, which was broadcast on Great Performances on PBS, and the title character in Robert Aldridge and Herschel Garfine's Sister Carrie, of which I have the CD right here with a photo of. She recently performed with Arizona Opera, San Diego Opera. She performed with us here in Nashville, Minnesota Opera, and many other companies. Ms. Zabala made her European operatic debut in Valencia, Spain, under the baton of Maestro Loren Mazel, and returned the following season for 2 productions conducted by Maestro Zubin Mehta. She has been a soloist with the New York Festival of Song, the Minnesota Orchestra, the Orchestra of St. Luke's, the Jerusalem Symphony, the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra, the Virginia Symphony, and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Ms. Zabala is currently Associate Professor of Voice at the Yale School of Music. So thank you so much for joining us, Adriana Zabala. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you, John.
And Patrick, whenever you are ready, we can start.
All right. Well, hello and greetings all. We are so excited to have Ms. Zabala with us today. We now will begin our class with Miss Anastasia Rainbow.
Hello, my name is Anastasia Rainbow, and today I will be singing Juliet's Waltz from the opera Romeo and Juliet by Charles Gounod.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Dr. Meadows. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
Good, good. Really nicely done, Anastasia.
Thank
You've
you.
worked really hard on this.
Yes, thank you so much.
This is not an easy aria, and you are really, really in there, aren't you?
Uh, yes, thank
Oh,
you. Thank you. I
beautiful tone.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you have a beautiful tone.
Thank you.
This is, of course, one of those stories that we don't have to dig too far to find and know who she is. This is
Right.
someone who's practically in our collective conscience.
Right.
Even though we know that, and I know you know that, just
Yes.
remind us who
Okay.
this is and what's going on in this scene.
Okay. Oh, say that again. Can you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
No worries at all. I'm going to adjust my view so I can see you better.
Okay.
Remind us who you are and
Okay.
what's going on, and
Oh,
tell us anything you want to
yes.
tell us about who you are and where you are.
Oh, yes. Well, I am Juliet, and I'm at the Capulets Cas or Palace, and it's my birthday. So,
Right.
so I am so Juliet. She's happy. This is the day of life. She's amazed at this time in this moment, and it's a masked ball. So
Yeah.
Romeo is in the Montagues. They come, and even though the Capulets and the Montagues they don't coexist, of course.
Right.
But Romeo comes into the ball in a mask. Juliet doesn't see him, but he sees her exuberant
Yeah.
and just full of life
Yeah.
and is like falls in love with her at this point. But she doesn't see him yet.
Right.
But and so that is basically what is happening right now in
Okay.
Juliet's waltz.
Okay. Great. What do you make of how do you think Gounod in his notation and in this somewhat unusual thing that he gives her, especially once the aria really begins after your initial wonderful outburst.
Mhm.
What does he do to give you a chance to really feel musically some of that exuberance?
Um, like music wise,
Yeah.
I feel
What's
with
somewhat unusual about the notation and about the way these first lines work?
I think the interesting thing that Gounod does is the beginning of the piece
Mhm.
where she comes in with the like, yeah, the
Yeah.
just like falling. It gives me a falling effect, and
Yeah.
and
If you were staging it, what might you choose to do at that point if you were staging?
oh, like me acting wise,
Yeah.
I think I would, well, I'm happy, so I would well, in my head, I think of
Yeah.
myself running, like, and telling my nurse, Gertrude,
Yes.
and like, like, just like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, it's my birthday.
Oh my gosh, it's my birthday. So
Yes.
that's a great subtext. And it's one that I want you to not be hesitant to have. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
my birthday is exactly what you want to have there. I would
Oh,
even
great.
say that when you hear
Hmm.
bum ba ba bum cha 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 cha, when you hear this,
Yes.
I want you, Anastasia, to be thinking in English,
Okay.
oh my God, it's my
My
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Why? Because we're going to look for a path in the body to some kind
Okay.
of truth in this character. It
Okay.
doesn't mean that that's always what we carry into performance. It just
Right.
means that we initially have to find the paths that show us in the body how that might manifest itself. When
Okay.
it's in an audition or a masterclass situation, obviously you're not going to be twirling about and
Right.
acting like Gertrude's there and all of that. We know that. But
Yes.
it's I would recommend and encourage you to still see that and find in your body as you rehearse and as we work
Okay.
what it feels like to imagine that she's there
Yes.
and to see her and start to let yourself, Anastasia, think it's Gertrude and it's my birthday, so that there's no part of you that's thinking it's a master class and I just started and I hope my husband is fine, even
Yes.
though we all do that, and it's completely normal. I really want you to not worry about that at all,
Okay.
and really just feel what it is to be her, expressing it just how you did. Oh my gosh, it's my birthday.
Yes.
Then, and we're going to try the beginning with Dr.
Okay.
Mills,
Yeah.
and we're going to stop at the end of your "Wa-da-dee." We're going to stop there because
Okay.
I really want to ask you about the next business, and we're probably going to spend the rest of our time working on how these initial phrases work in the je veux vivre.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just try the beginning. Another thing that I'd like to the extent that I have any permission to give, I always have to make that caveat, because I think we all, as when we're developing artists and throughout our artistic life,
Yes.
sometimes we're looking for permission. Usually for permissions we don't really need, but somehow we need somebody to say, you're allowed to do this or that.
Right.
So one thing I want to give you permission to do is, as you take the stage, you can be a real person. You don't have to stand there without breathing. You don't have to stand there and show me that you know how a singer stands, or anyone else.
Okay.
You can take the stage. And if your Juliet, once you sing, is at a 7 or an 8 out of 10 of characterization, take the stage at a 3.
Okay.
For your sake.
Okay.
What I mean is, even before his downbeat.
Okay.
When you come on, start to feel that. Then you have a downbeat and it's up to a 5 or a 6. And right before you sing, it's a 10.
Okay.
Not meaning of things you do, but of what you feel.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's give that a try.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Okay, good. I'm gonna say it. Very nicely sung, beautiful. However, when he gives you and you give a gesture of, can you see me?
Yes.
You give you gave a very singerly gesture of but I'm wondering if you can find a gesture that's a Juliet gesture.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than a singer gesture.
Yes. Okay.
And blatantly use the music there on note changes, on that chromatic descent. You will hear this in performance, and I'm sure that you have listened to recordings where sometimes it's not broadly comical, but almost comical in a very sweet way, of like an impetuous teenager.
Right.
And there's no reason not to use it in that really expressive way. This is French romantic music. It's highly expressive. So you have many opportunities to punch that up in your characterization. Don't be shy about it. And you know what, honey, it won't be everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
Somebody who's hearing you or directing you might say, I'd like a little less of that. The next person's going to say, I'd like a little more of that.
Exactly.
So we're not getting to something that's some correct thing as opposed to some incorrect thing.
Right.
But I'm just interested for you. You're already very animated. You already have a lovely presence.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. But what I really want to encourage you to do is really listen and see what's on the page and realize how much there is to do with what's on the page.
Okay.
We
Yes.
can sometimes feel, I think, when we look at a score, like, and by the way, yes, it is our job to do it correctly. This is why it's tricky. It's hard to get away from, I just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. I know well that that is our responsibility. So I'm not trying to dissuade you from that responsibility.
Yes.
But I also, even as you learn the aria, want you to discover the expressive opportunities, because it actually helps us learn pieces better.
Yes.
And it also really positively affects what we do technically, because the whole body will be even more engaged.
Yes, I understand. That's good.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yes.
And if it doesn't, please tell me and I'll try to put it another way or ask you something about it.
Okay.
Let's try one more time. And I'm going to task you with something a little bit different this time. It's something to kind of stir into the mix,
All right.
which is in your prelude, if you feel as a person
Mm-hmm.
that some gesture comes up and like,
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell you something. Don't be afraid to make the gesture.
Okay.
We don't have to wait until we sing for our bodies to be animated in character, even in a situation like you are right now in performance.
Yes.
I don't mean to do something huge or something distracting, but if it's what you're feeling
Yes.
and you're thinking about, show me, you can step away from the mic for a second.
Okay.
And let's pretend that Gertrude is just your good friend, and she is Juliet's friend, but nurse.
Right.
And I just want you to say, in the most natural way that you can, oh my gosh, it's my birthday, and I totally know I'm going to meet someone amazing. Just yeah, go for it.
Say, oh my God. Okay.
Just the lines I just gave you, but any way you want to say them.
Oh, say the lines or say, oh my gosh, it's my birthday.
Oh my gosh, it's my birthday, and I'm going to meet someone amazing.
Okay. Oh my gosh, it's my birthday, and I'm going to meet someone amazing.
Okay, do it again.
Okay.
Do it again, just like that. That was great.
Okay. Oh my gosh, it's my birthday, and I'm going to meet someone amazing.
Okay, those were fantastic. I don't know that I can replicate them. It was great. Oh my gosh, it's my birthday, and I'm going to meet someone amazing, right? I didn't see you use any of those gestures in your aria, and they're great, and they're strong, and they're young.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you just use those all the time, but those are great. They're natural, and they're not distracting. They're lovely.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
So even in the prelude, you can have it's my birthday. It can just be a gesture of realization. This is great. What a night it's going to be. Then in the body, you have that reason for an expansion and an intake, and
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Yes. I understand.
as you work more, you can even give yourself to be really precise about it so that it's something you can replicate and then it can evolve.
Okay.
Is to plan, to just plan that. Take something natural,
Okay.
then start to plan it, then let it live.
Okay.
So for example, bum 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 ba for his bum ba ba bum.
Mm-hmm.
That could be your my birthday.
Right.
And you just do it each time. Try it, see what it does for you.
Okay.
You may use it 10 times, and the 11th time you think, that's not working for me anymore. But you have a thing you're going to try and do because you found it naturally.
Yes. Okay. That's cool. Yes.
So give it a shot. Absolutely nothing incorrect at all.
Okay.
Just want you to feel a little freer
Yes.
about drawing your character in your own body.
Okay.
Yes. Brava, brava. Yes, good. That was fantastic.
Awesome.
That was fantastic. You're going to see it. I think you'll be able to look back.
Yes.
You tell me how it felt.
It felt natural, like even though it was a bit different, of course, but it felt natural. Like it was just like, oh, I can be me within the character. Like it's not
Exactly.
separatism. Yeah.
We can all go to sleep now. That's like the biggest thing.
Yes.
And it's not, to be very honest, it's not always been the case in performance practice that we want to, certain actors, certain singing actors, and they've been stars for particular reasons of very personal things. We're in a very different era.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say with confidence, as somebody who sits often on this proverbial side of the table, as well as on the side of the table that you're on,
Right.
that we want to see you in Juliet. I want to see your Juliet. I
Right.
don't want to sit there and think, correct, incorrect, correct, incorrect. She would be fine because it's correct. I want to go, you know who's going to be great is Anastasia, because she brings so much of some natural energy to that role.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
That's
again, that's subjective. That's how I feel about it. The next person might feel differently,
exactly.
but I can safely say, as a developing performer,
Yes.
it can do you a lot of good to draw from things that you would express naturally, to find versions of that that can work in your characters. It doesn't always mean that it will be literal,
Right.
but it's a natural impulse.
Yes, it is. And it felt good. It was more, and it's like I'm more into the body, in my body. Like it's
Good.
in, yeah. So I enjoyed that. Yeah.
I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And something else, if we were in a room together with everybody, this is the part where I would say to the group, did it make you want to hear what she was going to say once the aria began? And I promise you, most of your mates would be going, oh yeah, absolutely. That's how I felt. I've heard this aria a million times, but I was like, oh my gosh, what's she going to say?
Right.
Because you had this very generous, conspiratorial, like, oh my gosh, you guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what young Juliet is like.
Right. Right.
So brava for going there.
Thank you.
Again, remember that what you discover in a path is just a tool, and you can use it in all kinds of ways. And if you're taking direction, you can use it in all kinds of ways. I tend it already with you to think of things on a scale of 1 to 10 vis-a-vis how pronounced they are.
Okay.
So you might find something and then want to develop the ability to use it at a 2 or to use it at an 8, just depending on what someone says or what the room is like,
Right.
or how you feel that day.
Right. Okay.
You know,
Yes.
just, but having some tools and having it arranged that way. Now, good, brava. That's what you just discovered in that little first wonderful flourish of expression. That's going to be true of every time that she's got ahs, and every time there are melismatic passages. It doesn't mean that it's going to be the same subtext that you just discovered.
Yes.
But you must have a subtext for them.
Okay.
So the sequential climbing later, all of this.
Yes.
I want you to go through in your music, and you need to get to a, oh my gosh, it's my birthday, for every one of those passages.
Yes. Okay.
And they have to be really specific.
Yes.
In order to find the path, then they can evolve.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we were working a whole hour, we'd just go to each of those passages and just nail all of those down. But I know that that's something that you can do.
Okay.
So I want to go to
Adriana, this is your 2-minute warning.
oh, déjà, it does go very quickly. So Anastasia, what I think we can even do in 2 minutes is Guno notates little grace note, and of course it's a waltz, so you have a downbeat, brum, rest, brum, rest, right?
Right.
Da 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 da, brum, rest, brum, rest, correct?
Yes.
So what I actually want you to try without singing is actually just rhythmically chanting and really acknowledging those rests. So that will be with Dr. Nettles, but I won't do it together with you for the moment because we'll have a delay. So I'll show you a cappella what I mean, which is this. You'll breathe, and then you would do this. Je veux vivre dans le rêve. Okay?
Okay.
Make sure those rests are there, and let's see what we discover.
Okay. Should I stay here on the mic?
Sure. That'd be great.
Okay.
So yes, you're just going to breathe, and Dr. Niels is going to follow you because your breath's
right.
amazing.
I go for.
Yep.
Okay. Je veux vivre dans ce rêve qui m'embrasse ce
Good,
jour.
good,
Sorry.
good, good. One more time. I know you know what these words mean.
Yes,
Now do the same exercise expressively with that text. Je veux vivre dans ce. And let's see what happens.
okay. Je veux vivre dans ce rêve qui m'enivre ce jour encore
Okay,
de ce
good, good,
flamme.
good, 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 good. Do you know in your short-term memory or as you've been preparing this,
Yes.
had you been respecting those rests?
Yeah.
Right? A little
Yes.
bit fudged. Why do you think it's important to keep them?
Because of that waltz tempo
Because
and
of that waltz, why else?
the excitement with Juliet.
Yes, she has breathlessness, right?
Oh,
Because
right.
the
Yeah.
phrase is je veux vivre, but she
Right.
said je veux vivre dans ce. She's so excited she
Yeah.
can barely put the words together.
Okay. Wow.
So
Yeah.
make sure those rests are there.
Yes.
They will really help you meet your natural effervescence in this character,
Okay.
Anastasia. It's
Yeah.
so nice. You
Thank
can go
you.
further.
Okay, I will. I will go further. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Daryl.
All righty. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna. Now we will have, I have to see who's over there, Miss Caitlin Virgis singing Mandoline by Fade.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hello, I'm Caitlin. I'll be singing Mandoline by Fade.
Wonderful.
Les données des sérénades et les billes les écoutassent, échangeant des propos vagues sur les ramures cet exercice nécessairement et c'est l'éternel clétante et c'est d'amis qui permet d'écrire les femmes vitales. L'écoute des de soi, les longues robes à queue, l'élégance et le choix, et les mots, les imprimés. De bien l'extase, extase et d'une lunaire s'églissait. Et la mandoline jasait parmi les frisons des brises. Les données des sérénades et les billes les écoutassent, échangeant des propos fades sur les ramures coceuses.
Good, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Very nice work. Again, not an easy piece. And French, a non-phonetic language, really, really tricky. We're accustomed to languages with maybe 5, maybe 7 vowel sounds. We have around 17 in French. And you're pronouncing many of them rather well. Tell me how long you've had the piece and how it came into your repertoire.
I've had the piece, I guess I just got it last semester. So
Okay.
I've had it for maybe like a few months. It just came about, my teacher just brought it up. She was like, it seems like a really fun, interesting piece. And I was like, okay, let's go for it.
Cool. And you probably listened to a few recordings, and you're like, yeah, I kind of dig
Yeah.
that. Yeah. What's going on in the piece?
From what I see, it seems like maybe a gathering of sorts, men serenading women with skirts and dresses and poetry and things like that. That's what I
Yeah,
got from
that's
it.
a nice description. And what is your role in that scene?
I feel like I'm more of a narrator, like who's kind of watching it, whether it's like viewing a painting of the art style of that time or just narrating the scene.
Make a choice. Are you just looking at a painting, or are you in the scene?
Um, I'll say that I'm in the scene. Yeah.
Good. I think that that will already change what you're doing. At the moment, and by the way, and you may be a little bit nervous. I used to be crazy nervous in master classes, so you did a beautiful job. But now that you've done it once, you can relax a little bit. At the moment, it looked like you were like, I hope I remember all my French, and I'm on the master class, and I'm singing the song. So a little bit like what I was doing with Anastasia, I don't want you to be hesitant to be this character, even though, and there are many reasons for this in this era of poetry and in this poem in particular, even though the role of the subject, the role that you're singing, is actually a somewhat elusive presence. It's not the easiest one to pin down. So that's why I want you to be specific.
Okay.
The way you just were when you decided I'm in the scene. So if you're in the scene, then I also want you to tune into the things that you're pointing out and the things that you're seeing. And even if, also, like I said to Anastasia, even if we find things that you wouldn't end up using in performance,
Right.
it may be an important part of the path of finding how you exist in the song.
Okay.
Because this can be one where one doesn't know where to look, or where are the guests? Where am I? What's the deal with the tourbillon dans l'extase? Who is Tircis? Who's Amata? These characters. So I'm going to keep you at the mic for a second because we want to get a little bit into the text.
Right.
How comfortable do you feel speaking the lines?
I know I can speak them. It might not be perfect, but I know.
Yeah. So let me ask you to speak the first few lines until I stop you. Caitlin, as expressively as you can, meaning that they sound as natural as they can to what you
As
feel.
me, like being in the scene.
Yes.
Okay. Les donneurs des sérénades et les belles écouteuses.
Okay, good. So you've just named two different groups of people.
Mhm.
Les donneurs de sérénade et les belles écouteuses. Right? The A means and, so it's this group and it's that group. Les donneurs de sérénade et les belles écouteuses. So if you were naturally with your own body language saying, these guys over here and those beautiful listeners over there, how would you indicate that?
I'd probably be like this and that, like that.
Okay. And what if you took that down to a 2 and made it even more natural, less stagey? Love it. In the case of Fauré, in the case of Verlaine, the poet, and this happening when it does in the 19th century, I would recommend, again, there are a lot of things that go into what I was just saying, but I would recommend something somewhat natural, a little bit small, a little bit confident. You've been invited to this party after all.
Yeah.
Everyone's pretty swanky. You're pretty accustomed to this.
Okay.
There's even a clue in the poem that we'll reveal in a moment that kind of proves that you're accustomed to this. So I think you understand what I mean. Different from if we suddenly showed up at a party of some crazy celebrity, we'd be like, oh my God, there's that guy. And then there are those people. And we'd be like, ah, we'd be like wanting to selfie and post things to our friends. But you're so over it. You're like, oh, you know, another weekend, another big party under the trees with everybody playing and all the beautiful listeners. I'm one of them.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, a little more nonchalant. So clear, but a little understated. So say the first line again, and don't be afraid at all to les donneurs de sérénade et les belles écouteuses.
Okay.
And go on.
Les donneurs, okay. Les donneurs et sérénades et les belles écouteuses, échangeant des propos fades sur les ramures.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Échange les propos fades sur les ramures.
Right when you asked that, it's completely slipped my mind.
No worries. So these people and those people are chit-chatting
Mhm.
under the trees. Essentially, des propos fades, empty words, small talk. So this group, that group, they're just hanging out.
Mhm.
Then you have a new thought. Échange des propos fades sous les ramures. Ah, you have, so then we know, why do we go? Why does that move that way? What is that?
I guess in terms of the situations and how the women
Right.
are responding to the serenades and the situation of the sort.
Yes, but the previous line is they're talking to each other with insipid remarks. So I
Mhm.
think it's really just them tossing off words to say,
Right.
just the things that they always say.
Mhm.
And then that marks that first whole phrase.
Mhm.
So let's try from the beginning. But before you step back, I'm going to give you the same task that I gave Anastasia, where the moment Dr. Nels begins to play, you're in the scene. We don't wait until we sing.
Okay.
So you get all this really precious, kind of groovy, and that's probably the serenading, right? The string
Right.
players. And and I'm going to give you a second because I really want you to decide. I want you to find an English subtext about just having arrived at the party,
Mhm.
looking around, seeing the people you see. And before you sing, I'm going to ask you what the subtext is. So I want you to find very specific words. For Anastasia, it's, oh my gosh, it's my birthday. It doesn't have to be that short. It can be.
Okay.
So think about it for a sec.
Okay. I think I have an idea.
Okay, maybe I lied. Don't tell me.
Okay.
And what I'm going to ask you is if you did it. Okay, if you made that subtext somehow real in your body.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to your kind of performance aura place. And do me a favor, just blow all your breath out. Little bit of noodle, shake a little bit. Yeah, no worries at all. We're just working for fun. So no right or wrong. We're just looking for paths. And you're going to go for it. Okay.
Okay. Les donneurs des sérénades et les belles écouteuses, échangeant des propos fades sous les ramures et
Hey, good. Stop. Good. Some really nice things happened. Let me ask you how it was for you and if you noticed that it was different at all from what you've been doing.
Yeah, I feel like personally, I was kind of in more of like my own like bubble, able to like visualize the things that I'm seeing, like while I
Yeah.
see them, instead of
Good.
like translate in my head, what does this mean, right? Like, yeah.
Exactly. And let me say unequivocally that by the time you're performing, of course we do. You and I and everyone who does anything like what we do, we want it to be correct. We want to know every word, of course. But once you're performing, you're a storyteller. So let me say that when you just said, I'm in my own bubble, I can see things, that is absolutely where you want to be. Frankly, no matter how prepared you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ideally, you're as prepared as possible.
Right.
But frankly, no matter how prepared you are, that's what you want to be doing when you perform. Because then you're giving the listener something, really communicating something, right? So lovely. I adored that you brought in just this very subtle bit of personality right when he began to play. And it was a response to seeing something too. So then we get, okay, Caitlin's alive and telling us a nice story that seems to be fun because this music seems fun. And I want to know what you're going to say. Just like with Anastasia with her, yeah, I was like, wait, what is she going to say? Because you're drawing us in. So
Okay.
when you're in your bubble and you see things, you're inviting us to see them as well. And we trust you because you're our narrator and you're our guide. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I want to get a little bit away from the woo-woo part of what I'm saying and look at the passage that we just did. And I'd like to give you some very specific suggestions of how to make that even stronger. And it may not be what you're accustomed to, and it may feel a little bit awkward, but I would like you to try it just to see what it feels like in the body. So what I'm seeing, Caitlin, are really good impulses that read and then go away before the end of the musical phrase.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I'm going to show you what I
Yeah,
mean.
that makes sense.
So for
Okay.
example, let on, and I see the hand and I see your eyes. So I'm like, yay, I want to follow that focus. But this is what happened. So I know it seems very simple. It's hard to do when we're performing, but what I want you to try is the moment you make a gesture, stay focused on that gesture, the eyes where they are, and just keep the gesture until the next one.
Okay.
Very much an exercise. So again, doesn't mean that it's precisely how you're performing in the end, but I want you to find that control in the body. It feels vulnerable because guess what happens when you do that? People really start to watch you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a puppy and I had never had a puppy before. And something I learned that seems very obvious now, but it was talking about when training the puppy, don't look at the puppy like, come on, come with me, but look in the direction you want to go because the puppy will want to follow you if it feels like you know where you're going.
Right. Okay.
That's amazing. I was like, that's miraculous. But we do the same thing as an audience member. If we see a performer who looks like they know where they're going with a story, we want to go with them.
Right.
So I'm going to do it very crudely. You're going to do it artistically, but it would look something like this, even mechanically. Les donneurs de sérénade, elle est belle les écouteuses, échange des propos fades sous les ramures chanteuses. Boom, boom, boom. That simple, okay?
Right.
It's going to feel a little awkward. It's going to feel a little bit vulnerable, but I'd like you to try it.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So from the beginning again, keep that flash of like, I'm at the party now. It's all good. Very nice. Okay. Okay. Caitlin, excellent. Excellent, excellent. Tell me anything that you noticed or experienced.
I feel like it was a little awkward at first, but the moment I started to lean into the movement, it felt more natural and helped more with the phrasing of the like music itself because I could lean
Yes.
into it.
Good. Good. What you do that's so good is that you're being brave with something that didn't feel really natural, as you said. And this is very different. I want to say to everybody, this is different than what we were doing with Anastasia. For Anastasia, we were looking for a natural gesture and just bringing it right in and grafting it onto the character. Here, we're using a bit more artifice, but we're looking for something that clarifies expression, essentially, especially because the other story is an excited teenage girl about her birthday night. This is a much more complicated poem.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to find something, as we do a lot in symbolist poetry, of the spirit of the poem. So any clarity we can find is very helpful. I loved the commitment to the sides. It also makes sense with how Fauré has set the poem. It's, if we didn't use any words, it sounds like so that's how the syntax works, and your body reiterated that,
Yeah.
and that makes me want to hear what you're going to say next. It makes me feel less that there's a really lovely young singer who feels a little bit nervous and is somewhat scattered. Does that make sense? So now
Yes.
you're a reliable narrator.
Yeah.
Let's move on to one of my favorite parts. This is the part where we're going to find the proof that you go to these parties all the time. Next is Tircis, amante, and l'éternel clitandre. So who are these people, and what's the deal with the eternal clitandre?
What I know about them is that they're kind of, what's the word? I guess like, I can't think of the right word. People that like everyone is kind of like aware of, like society wise, like
Yes.
everyone knows who they are.
Yes, totally. And in the poem and in the setting, there's Tircis, there's clitandre, right? And I mean, excuse me, c'est Tircis, there's amante, and l'éternel clitandre. What do you make of that?
I guess that he's just able to quickly identify these people like at this party. And,
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Your character, whether it's he or she, and I don't know that it matters at all. Yes, I recognize Tircis, I recognize amante, but éternel, in this case, in the poem, can mean tiresome.
Okay.
Like, oh, clitandre, what a pain in the butt. It's like at a party, you're like, oh, I hope I don't get stuck with clitandre. And if you know that about the register of the word in the poem, and you listen to Fauré's setting, you have a nice little opportunity to paint that. C'est Tircis, et c'est amante, et c'est l'éternel clitandre. Oh God, I'm always, clitandre always coming at me right when I'm not talking to somebody.
Okay.
And that helps us, again, clarify as much as we can in symbolist poems, which are maddeningly non-narrative.
Yeah.
Here's this person, here's that person, here's this tiresome person. Who's next? Et c'est l'éternel clitandre. Oh, et c'est Damis, and there's Damis. And then we do more with Damis. Qui pour maintes cruelles fit main vers tendre. We have this person, that person that makes me crazy, and the one who's playing the verses, a serenader. And that's another chunk for us to clarify. So if you go back to where you were, your place in the party, and you've just done this wonderful job of les donneurs, les sérénades, les belles écouteuses, échange des propofades, it's hard on that long phrase to keep your hands kind of in one place without conducting. So try to just keep them there. Then you have something new. C'est Tircis et c'est amante. You choose right now, Caitlin. Where is Tircis? Just in the room that you are.
Oh, he's probably sitting on the couch somewhere. Talking.
Let's not say probably. You just tell me where he is.
He's sitting on the couch talking.
Point to him. Point to Tircis. Okay. Point to amante.
In the back right there.
Okay, it could be better maybe to have a contrast, more of a contrast to where the first person is, if you're helping your audience understand. So maybe somewhere with your right hand for the
Adriana, you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Right there.
I need you back. I need you back on the speaker view.
Okay.
I can see you tiny up there. Tircis with your left hand. Say Tircis. Amante with your right hand. But broader to your right, so that you don't cut off your body at all. Yeah. And then what if clitandre is coming right at you?
So could it be like
Like
right
just
here?
like is totally like Caitlin, hello,
Like,
right at you.
okay.
And then and yet a fourth thing. Et c'est Damis qui pour maintes cruelles fit main vers tendre. And then you have the longer phrase. I'd love for you to try that. I'm so trying to get you back to speaker view so I can actually see you. It's not really working.
Okay.
Oh, it is not working. That's all right. I'm just gonna squint my eyes and hope that I can see you. Can you go back to your performance space? And we're going to, if Dr. Nettles could please play Chanteuse, Caitlin, come in on Satisfies. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, stop. Let's stop. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Just as clearly as you did the others. Satisfies, follow your eye and stay with it.
Okay.
Make a bold, even if it's not big, I don't even think it should be big, but just clear.
Okay.
Have the courage to just stay with it, because we will want to stay with you if you stay with your gestures.
Okay.
Let's go same place, because I actually want you to practice the idea of, Satisfies, I see him. Okay, let's try it one time, Patrick, and then we'll move on. Just one time. Good. What I want to leave you with is your specificity is exciting. Get that specific with everything in this storytelling, and you'll be even more connected in your body, and we can hear some of those nice French phonemes.
Thank
Really,
you.
really
This
good work.
really helps a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you, Caitlin. And now we have Miss Courtney Town singing Au Coin J'adore.
Excellent. Hi, Courtney.
Hello, how are you?
Nice to see you. I'm well, thank
as well.
you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Courtney, wow. What a voice. Beautiful. And lovely, Dr. Nettles, thank you. Again, not easy repertoire, my goodness. How long have you had it?
I've had this piece for about a year,
Yeah,
but I've haven't been performing it all that much
sure.
because I have a ton of other repertoire. So I'm just kind of bringing it back and just
Yeah,
I want to perform it for my senior recital this semester. So
sure.
I'm just bringing it back this time.
It's one of those pieces that has such challenges that always keep us honest. So it's a piece you can live with forever. So 1 year, it's still called really new in the scheme of things. You'll probably sing it for a very long time. It's very good for you. I would like for us to zoom out of the, we've been in your previous two colleagues, we've been working on interpretation and the freedom to feel and some of that finding a path in the body for expression of some of these texts. We're going to do something a little bit different because I think this music presents itself in your voice for us to look for line and flow in the body and the way the breath wants to work in this very rangy piece with very long phrases. Sometimes it felt like you were really feeling your support and it felt like there was some nice flow. Other times it felt maybe a little bit more challenging. Is that fair?
Yes.
What are some of what's one of the first things you might do when you're thinking, oh, I'm going to scale back, maybe take away some text and kind of work on how the lines work? What are some things that come to mind for you or that have worked for you in past? Do you ever use it as a vocalese, totally taking away text?
No, I haven't tried that, but I can.
Yeah, I think we might have some fun with that. I don't think Liszt will mind, or I don't think Hugo will mind, because it's such a gorgeous melody. It could work as a vocalese, and a hard vocalese at that, let me say. Let me say, before we take Hugo's beautiful poem away, that your French phonemes are quite good. I would like for you to pay attention to, especially to the so-called schwa. I say so-called because I'm of the school that is not a schwa, but an OE in IPA, an rather than an a. That's any word that is ending with an E. And that's also any one syllable that ends with an E, whether that's spelled with 2 letters like que, or 2 letters, 3 letters like que, or 2 letters like de. So can you just say, I'm going to say a few of them and I just want you to say them after me.
Okay.
Okay, some of them appear in this poem, some may not. De, ce, que, le.
De, ce, que, le.
Very good. We both feel as we do that, our lips are out in front of our teeth. These are not sounds that we're really making in English very often, but that is that place. It is even the place, as you probably know in French, where the filler of silence in French, when somebody is saying like they would in English, or we sometimes say like, but they would go, je ne sais, mais je pense que, it's actually the default sound for a French speaker to have those lips in front of the teeth and to phonate through that. What's interesting in this text for you is that some of those you were nailing beautifully, but some of them weren't that sound. So if I can look just quickly through the text. Oh, quand je dors, viens auprès de ma couche, de ma couche. Comme à Pétrarque. I don't know if he sets everyone to music, so now I'm looking at the poem. Apparaissait Laura, et qu'on passe son temps à haleine me touche, soudain ma bouche s'entr'ouvrira. Can you just speak the first line for me?
Au quand je dors, viens auprès de ma couche.
Good. The QU is just k, just quand.
Que,
Oh, quand je dors, quand.
quand
So
je dors.
quand je dors. So don't be tempted to gild the lily with a QU. It's just a K sound. Quand je dors, viens auprès de ma couche. Viens.
Viens.
Yes. It's more open than you think. It's not viens, but viens. Viens auprès de ma couche. Say that again. Viens auprès de ma couche.
Viens auprès de ma couche.
De ma couche.
De ma couche.
Yes. So that we don't spend all our time on these beautiful phonemes, because all of us can spend a lot of time on our French phonemes. The one I want you to pay attention to is that sound, like on the end of couche. Make sure that when you go through this text that you are marking all of those very clearly and that they are all the same.
Okay.
Okay, just be very careful with that.
Okay.
Now, Victor Hugo, I'm sorry, but we're going to say au revoir and go specifically to Liszt's Mélodie, literally the melody of the mélodie. And do you have a favorite vowel, my dear? Ah, ou, any that you don't like? Some of us have ones that we'd really rather not vocalize on.
I like
How about you like ah? Let's do ah. If that ah wants to migrate to an open O, or it can migrate, but let's go with an ah. Okay. And let's see if we can go right on the full measure before her entrance, Dr. Nettles. And what I want you to do, Courtney, we're not performing at all anymore. This is just, we're just working.
Okay.
I want you to give yourself a gesture that for you indicates legato, that indicates the smoothness and the connection that you want to feel in your voice. And just enjoy the melody. Don't worry about the text. Don't worry about the performance. Just want you to hear what Dr. Nettles is playing, really tune in to the piano and give yourself a gesture of legato on an ah. Good. Let's stop for a sec. You are well, you don't have to be at the mic, dear. Yeah, I don't want to keep you at the mic because it's nice to be closer to the piano. You're lucky to be close to a piano that's playing. We all miss that terribly. I miss it like the devil. So first of all, very nice. Your gesture was lovely. That's not there. I'm not asking you to do that gratuitously. We do tend, there is a relationship between how our breath behaves and our conception of gesture. It's my theory that that's one of the reasons we follow a conductor with a lovely gesture so well, because then we attach our instinctual breath action to the gesture of the conductor. And I think the same thing works when we conceive of a gesture. So first of all, very nice. That seemed to be very natural for you. You can go further with having that gesture complete phrases that you want to complete. So don't be afraid of looking like a conductor. I don't mean beating a pulse. I mean, of the expressive part, the left hand usually, but right hand fine, and finish that gesture so that you are also simultaneously encouraging the muscles that control our breath and the pace of our contraction to follow that plan. It's a somewhat complex thing that I'm just saying, so just do that. I realize that, and I'm saying it pretty compactly because we've got so little time, but I want to encourage you to explore that idea of how a gesture that you give yourself as you work and as you conceive of a phrase can help your breath follow that plan. So I want to do it again. And this time, I'm going to ask you, let me ask you this before I ask you to do it again. Would you say that what role do you feel your jaw plays in changing pitch, if it plays a role in changing pitch?
I think I noticed that I allow my jaw to really kind of control, like, especially if I call it like maybe just shifting from different like parts of my voice, maybe go from the middle up.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll use my jaw to like a lot instead of just keeping it here or just really connected. So
yeah. Good. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And so I wanted to hear what you were going to say. You're absolutely right that is happening too much. That's absolutely something you can work on without too much trouble. You can resolve that, but it doesn't happen just because of an idea and then suddenly it works. But it does work if you practice it working. So I would recommend for you a lot of mirror work. It's very powerful when we do some outward monitoring. And you might just have very gently, the hand on the chin, just to remind and encourage release, openness, and awareness. We're not talking about, I want to be really clear about this, Courtney, and everybody else who's listening. I'm not talking about not moving your jaw. I'm simply not someone who believes we fix one place and basta. There are teachers who believe that. I think we remain flexible within reason. And each body is a little bit different that way as well. There are those who need to feel more actual opening to both find and consistently feel the space when they're in a higher range. Some need less. So I'm just talking about letting the jaw do only what it needs to do, not do extra things that it doesn't need to do, because that little bit of extra jaw tension absolutely affects the tongue, and the tongue base affects the larynx, and that affects the vibrato and the tone. So it's no secret to any of us that that's all totally of a piece. We know that everything really is a matter of just balance. So I don't say to you, Courtney, make sure the tongue's doing this, make sure the jaw's doing that, make sure the larynx is doing that. That's just not how most of us, it's not how we tend to do something well, by having to micromanage it. So the only thing I want to say to you at this point is to let it be a general goal to let the jaw do less. Not talking about making it, not talking about stiffening or making it still or not, or immobile, just letting it do less. If you're conscientiously letting it do less, the tongue will do less. Other things that are engendering tension will not do so as readily. And then something magical will eventually happen. And then of course it's not magical because you're practicing it and it's happening, which is that the breath is really free to control the phrase. And that's what we want to feel. The term that I use is the breath playing the phrase. I like to think of it that way, and I like to feel that. When things are free, you'll have a sensation that pitch and contour and expression are entirely controlled in the breath. This is actually a beautiful piece to practice that with, and because it's so gorgeous. So let's continue to use this first whole phrase through exactly where we stopped, with this in mind. If I were with you in person, I would function as your mirror and help you kind of monitor that, so that you are just, the first step is to simply be aware of where those changes are taking place when they don't need to. So this time, I know I'm throwing a bunch of things at you at once. It's just such a beautiful voice. Wow. I hope that even the tiniest thing might help. So even though I loved the gesture you made and I wanted that to be about the breath, at the moment, let's do it again. And this time, very gently, again, no tension, very gently with your hands. Can you find from your cheekbones up towards your ears where that jaw hinge is? Go ahead and just touch your own face there, and you feel, and drop your jaw and you'll feel that hinge. Get in there a little bit, feel it. Feel that?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of feeling those mechanical things. Our bodies are quite miraculous, how they're built. It's good for singers to get in there and feel those things, right? Yeah. So this time, I'd like you to stay tuned in to that jaw. And same spot, Dr. Nettles, if you will. And don't worry about fixing anything or doing something right or wrong. Courtney, I just want you to feel it. I just want you to be aware. If being aware helps it as you sing, great. But the first thing is just awareness.
Okay.
Okay, so right there. Sorry to stop you so soon. Did your jaw move on each note? Do you know?
Yeah, it moved just a tad bit.
It does.
Much, but yeah, it did move.
It does. And in this part of any female voice range, this isn't, sometimes we do a big leap if there's a big interval or a big register change. This is a plummy spot for you. I think that very little needs to happen. Very casually right now, can you just, not even thinking of producing a classical sound, if it comes out great, but can you just, as if you were just humming it, you're like, you're doing a chore or just going across the parking lot and you just love this melody. So just sing it for me like that, on and on. That was less eventful in your jaw. I know that that's not your full production, but that's a seed of your full production. Can you just create a bit more of that classical resonance and have the same principle that you just had? Just nice and legato, a little bit sloppy if you like. Go on the next part of the melody. Okay. So first, I'm going to say it one more time. Your voice is beautiful. Your homework is to get in front of a mirror. Okay. And be really, really objective about it. It's, it can be tough for all of us as singers to get in front of the mirror, and especially when we're working on something, it's not super fun. We're like, or we get distracted by other things, but just go in there knowing that you're going to do some good work for yourself. And if you can do it with piano, that would be great. But I just want you to watch. And if you can lightly monitor on the outside, chin, encouraging the jaw to, and another way to say it, it's not fun, I'm sorry to say this, is we don't want chewing. So right now, it's somewhat of a habit to but it's really something you can work through with practice. By the way, you're way not alone in this particular challenge. Yours truly was doing that like well into my 20s. It really started to not work in Rossini with a whole lot of fast notes. So I really know I'm preaching from experience, because it wasn't magic. It was just working at it and just monitoring it and just being aware of it. It took me a very long time because I just didn't want to see that problem for a good long while. I bet you're more open-minded than I was. You seem like it. So I would just encourage, this is not something, by the way, Courtney, that means, hey, you need to fix that before you do anything else. That's not what I mean at all. It's just something to encourage even more freedom in your beautiful voice. What will eventually be the result is that you'll have an even more even timbre, and that beauty will go from note to note without interruption and without change in the resonance. And we want consistent timbre when we hear such a rich and lovely voice. We want to hear that consistent timbre, even in the comfortable tessitura, let alone the rangier parts of it, you know?
Adriana, 2 minutes.
Okay. What I want to do in our last little 2 minutes, dear, is can you hear me, Courtney?
Yes.
Sorry,
I
because
can
you
hear
kind of disappeared from me. So I'm going to do something which seems very antithetical to a masterclass, but it's for your experience. Can you, oh wait, can we do this with COVID? I was gonna have you turn around and sing with just the piano, but maybe we shouldn't turn and do it. So stay out, not performing at all, same spot, Dr. Nettles. And Courtney, it's just for you, just for you.
Okay.
Easy peasy, just love the melody, simple. Good. I'm sorry to stop you. It's such beautiful music. Good. Anything you noticed? Were you tuning into the jaw? Because there were some. There's less.
Yeah, I did. I was just trying to just like, I don't know. I guess more so I'm just thinking of it, and once one plays, I know you say you don't have to do that, but
Right.
just to get out of the practice of the jaw, I just kind of thought of it.
Thinking stable, just
Yeah.
stay stable. That was excellent. And then the thing I want to make sure that I make clear before we part is that, you know, when you're in that higher range and as you're working that, do let yourself have the space that you need.
Okay.
It's important when you're working to tame the jaw and the tongue that you're not trying to make it still as much as just letting it be stable.
Okay.
And I also just want to compliment you on just your countenance and carriage is really just so lovely for this piece. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Towns. Thank you, Dr. Nettles.
Thank you, Dr. Nettles.
Ms. Zabala. Thank you so much. And I'm going to now turn it over to Hannah Marco from Nashville Opera.
I think if anyone has any questions, any of the students, they're welcome to ask.
I had a question. Well,
Hi.
I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Elisha Stone. I'm a mezzo as well. And my question is, I know that I've personally, I haven't had a French piece yet, But when it comes to what you were talking about with theatrics and getting into the character, um, what are some things that you can say to not get so lost in the technicality of the language so you can display um, the word translation with your theatrics, but how you were working with Anna and Caitlin with just being natural with the whole phrase?
Thank you for that question. I want to make sure that there's one part of your question that I understand. Did I understand you say, how do you do that without getting overly technical in the language? Okay, so I've got bad news. Good news and bad news. The bad news is, in the long run, and this goes for everybody, including the first two singers where we were working on that expression and that interpretation, is that we can't do it in the end without getting really meticulous with the language. So and I don't view that as bad news. It's just to say that that's the long haul. French is tricky. It's tricky for, I think, for anyone who's not speaking it natively. And it's a really tough language. It's non-phonetic. The vowel combinations and vowels are plentiful. I will also say that the rewards are great because it is very rich and beautiful, as I think we all know. So straight up years and years and years of work on French. There's no shortcut. However, I do want to say that vis-a-vis both the kind of learning I just said, and I think more to your question, any piece you're approaching, any single piece, whether it's a mélodie, a chanson, there's some interesting differences, or an aria from an opera, you must begin with text. You must begin with the story. I don't give any caveats. I will always say that and always believe that, even down to the effect it has on how well you learn it musically and how well you learn it technically. So I would say, don't ever even allow yourself to sing a single note, where you don't know what you want to say with that note or that word or that phrase. I think it can be challenging when we're younger, especially, of taking ownership of a story. We think, is that right? Or I'm safer if I don't make a bold choice on what especially with symbolist French poetry, again, where the narrative is pretty slippery. There really is barely one. So the other big encouragement I would give you, especially non-arias, because there's usually more literal storytelling going on there, is to make choices and make things up if you need to. If it's symbolist poetry, it's Mallarmé, and it's like, why is everybody talking about gods, goddesses, fairies, perfumes, moss? What does it mean? What's happening? Decide what's happening. That's one of the points of symbolist poetry, is that your interpretation of that is valid and totally different from the next person's. It's not the same of all languages and periods and stories. Late 19th century French, it is. So to try to answer your question, it's coming at it from every end. Very top down, which is you learn your verbs, you learn all your sounds, you learn your IPA, you watch movies, you travel, you do language tapes. You guys barely know what those are, but you know what I mean, the fogey. You do all that, and bottom up, what's the story I mean to tell? And as I was saying to one of your mates, once you get to performance, no matter what, your job is to tell story. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Ms. Zabala. I had a question concerning learning French, because I believe that there's only so much that our vocal teachers can do within our lessons concerning like giving us words and IPA. But for me, I know personally, like when I've been in my vocal lessons, like, you know, I've had my vocal teacher, pronounce words for me, but then I forget, the sounding, especially the OE, which yes. Yes. So do you know of any platforms that we can use, that could help?
Well, with some digging, you would probably find maybe even more than I know of,
Okay.
because I think there are probably endless resources. Out there in the world, that range from things like the Babbel app or Duolingo,
Okay, because I was
which for
going to ask
singers
about
is
that.
fantastic because you can do 5 or 6 languages on them. And if I'm not mistaken, Duolingo pays attention to your pronunciation. Then you can go to something much more invested that costs a little bit, but is excellent, like Diction Police, where you have a team of world-class diction coaches giving a really specific lesson on a text, totally going through IPA and giving recordings. But I have to say, one of the most important things you can do is listen to French singers. I would say if you can, with a text in front of you, even more important than a score on this topic, with a text in front of you, listen to Gérard Souzé sing any single word of Verlaine, and you're halfway there. I mean, listen a lot. And like with anything, and certainly with any language, don't worry about magically having it. Don't worry about whether you have an ear for it or not, whether you have a talent for it or not. Just get busy. The thing is to just do something. Nourish yourself with the sounds of French. And my gosh, we live in the era of international movie and television in front of us it's extraordinary. My father used to bring home Betamax tapes of French movies, and we could have, 2 per month, and we had to drive an hour to the video store to get one. Now you can watch series of television shows and any movie under the sun. So listen to native speakers, listen to singers of French poetry.
Okay.
And study.
For sure.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Adriana, so much. Thank you for being with us today. It's really something. And you were right, especially with language and text. I'm big on starting with text myself.
But I know that that's not how everyone feels, but the older I get, I'm like, I don't need to make any more excuses. That's what I believe. And I think we're never sorry when we do that. We come in on a level of communication and ownership that feels less elusive than when we don't, I find. And that's the place where the very special things happen. When we bring our own minds and heart to what words mean, then we really get to do what we're doing for the reasons that are interesting in the world and that matter.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure and honor. Lovely to hear everyone who sang. Thank you for your patience, and to everyone. I wish we were in the room and I could look at you all and thank you in the eyes, but thank you.
Thank you so much. I want to thank our project partners for this masterclass. Tennessee State University, Dr. Robert Elliott, Head of Music Department, Fisk University, and the 105 Voices of History Choir. I want to say a special thank you to our sponsors that made this possible: the National Endowment of the Arts, Opera America Innovation Grant, and the Ann and Gordon Getty Foundation, South Arts, the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation. I also want to say a thank you to Dr. Nettles for accompanying today. And I agree with you, Adriana, a live accompanist is a great, unique thing nowadays. And thank you so much to our project manager, Patrick Daly. We'll be back next month with another HBCU podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Adriana Zabala, thank you once again for being with us. It was really terrific.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Thank you all. Thank you, John.
Right. Well, thank you so much, and we will see you next month.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.